All right. Good evening and welcome to the Zoning and Design Review Board meeting for March 11th, 2014. Just a quick reminder, there are agendas at the door entrance here. And if you could please make sure all cell phones are turned to silent as we move forward. And first order of business, we'll have our roll call.
Member Cook.
Here.
Member James.
Here.
Member Laz. Here. Chair Durham.
Here.
Let the record reflect that Vice Chair Scoggins is excused.
Very good. We shall all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So first thing we'll do is adoption of the agenda. Any changes or discussion on tonight's agenda?
No.
Very good. So we make a motion to adopt the agenda. Very good. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Then we will move to number 4 with approval of no minutes. So we shall then move to number 5. And seeing the public is probably here for 7.1, I'll say no public comment as well. And the ever so popular consent calendar for the ZDRB is again empty. So with that, we will move to public hearing 7.1. And I must recuse myself given my location to the address, and Member Jason James will take over from here. Thank you.
All right. Good evening. Tonight you have before you major alterations to an existing parcel in the Old Town Historic District, and it's approximately 5,000 square foot parcel that's developed with 2 residences. The first is this single-family residence that's located at the front half of the parcel, and there's a second dwelling that's located at the southeast corner at the rear of the property. And the applicant has submitted this rendering to show conceptually what the site would look like upon the major alterations. And as noted in your staff report, there is a dispute as to the north property line, as to whether that's a 0 lot line and the house sits on it, or whether it's a 5-foot setback. We understand that there's a lawsuit where the courts are hearing this matter, so it's unresolved at the time of this application. But it is noted that it has limited bearing on tonight's project, since the house is in an existing location at its existing footprint, and there's no increase in that footprint, and there's no increase in the discrepancy between existing conditions in the code. And as you'll soon see, the applicant is proposing to create a fire separation on that elevation and close the north elevation windows in in anticipation of a worst case scenario that the court finds in favor of the 0 lot line. This is the existing floor plan, and you can see shown in red that the applicant will be removing the front porch, all of the interior walls and partitions, closing off those 2 windows on the north side, and removing the back laundry room, and that room is shown here in this photo. And the applicant proposes a more open floor plan with a 1-bedroom, 1-bath layout. These are the elevations as visible from Jefferson Street, and the house's roof line will be raised from 24 to 32 inches, so that the height is just over 17 feet. The applicant is proposing to build a new front porch and to close off what is the existing stairs and entry to the front porch from the front yard and from the street. And the other big change to this elevation is the fenestration and the 3 new sets of 9-foot tall French doors in either a dark bronze or black metal finish. And this treatment is repeated here on the south elevation and again on the east elevation facing the backyard. And here I show the north elevation with the 2 windows closed off for fire separation. The applicant proposes new redwood horizontal siding that would be painted in a pale gray blue color with white trim, and you see examples of the dark bronze or black steel doors that will be used for the French doors. This is the floor plan of the second dwelling at the rear corner of the parcel, and shown in red is the demolition of the back porch and removal of a bedroom and some interior walls, but otherwise this floor plan will remain as is. This shows a photo of that part of the building that will be removed. And this is a site plan of the floor plan. So when it comes to the elevation, the applicant is also proposing to raise the height of this structure, in this case by 4 feet, in order to create some overhead storage for this parcel, indicating that it's short on storage. And the changes that will be visible from Jefferson Street include the divided light roll-up garage door with the glass panels that you see on the right-hand side of this slide, and a new sliding redwood barn door shown on the left side of the slide. And at an elevation about 8 feet, the applicant proposes a trellis on the building. This is the south elevation, and the 2 existing windows will remain in place, as will the window on the east elevation shown here. This is the north elevation facing the backyard, and the applicant proposes a new dark steel multi-plane glass door and also a corrugated metal sliding door for what they're proposing as a garden shed that's incorporated into the main building. This building will feature horizontal corrugated metal siding to match the main dwelling, and it's shown toward the top of this slide in between the siding and the landscaping. And the staff report notes that corrugated metal siding is neither listed as an approved nor prohibited material, so it's looked at in terms of whether it's appropriate for the district and whether it is integral to the building and doesn't create a false architectural style. And staff's opinion is that it is an agrarian element that ties the 2 buildings together and maintains the vernacular style of the 2 buildings, and we have no problem with it. Really, staff's only concern with this project is the front porch and the fact that the applicant is proposing to close off the entry from the front yard and ultimately the street, and that's based on guidelines for Old Town Historic that references the pedestrian orientation and the fact that porches should be open, and by closing it off, it presents a side view to the street, and our interpretation is that it's necessary for the district. So we've included a condition of approval that it be included in the design. The last item I will discuss is parking, and the site is non-conforming as to parking. There isn't a garage on the parcel, and the only parking is surface level parking, and yet most of it is not accessible because of an existing picket fence and a pedestrian gate that blocks off the rear half. The applicant is proposing to site 2 tandem style spaces on the property, one in front of a new 4-foot tall gate that would provide access to a second space beyond the parking. And in this case, the applicant's removing bedrooms out of both structures. They're not creating an action that would trigger an increased parking requirement. And even though it would be 1 short as to the minimum standard, we find that it is an improvement and consistent with the work that's being done. So we're recommending approval subject to the conditions of approval that are attached to the staff report. And I know the applicant is here and he can present his project as well.
Thank you, Sandra. Let's begin first. Any questions of staff?
I don't know if this is for staff or for the architect. In the report, it says that the siding on the rear unit will be horizontal, and in the picture it shows it vertical. Is that? It's going to be.
So, I'm sorry, I have to interrupt you. We'll need you to come up to the mic, but just a moment. We'll finish asking the questions of staff, and then we're going to invite you all at once
Okay,
So
sorry.
if-
Maybe this was a question for
Quite all
him
right,
later.
and that's fine.
We can wait.
Any others?
No.
Because I had the same question
Oh.
too, so I'm going to have to wait as well.
Okay.
Karen, do you have any questions of staff? Is this parcel small enough to be exempt from our Willow Ordinance?
It is, yes.
Okay. Is it your anticipation, Sandra, that any landscape improvements will come back in a separate application?
No, since this is an existing parcel, I think that they'll just proceed with any landscape changes. And they're not presented as part of this project.
Okay, that's what I wanted to identify. There seems to be a very significant amount of turf depicted, and I want to make clear that our action tonight is not approving the landscape plan. You may be
Correct.
telling us that there may not be an opportunity to review it, but any action we take tonight, there is no landscape plan that we're approving.
Correct. I'd also like to indicate, though, that the applicant has stated that's just for illustrative purposes. Green denotes the yard area. It doesn't necessarily denote lawn, and that any landscaping they do would be according to a water-wise palette. We just don't see it here.
But we're not taking any
We're not,
action.
and we're not taking action.
Any action on any of that. You've answered my question about the tandem parking. So now we'd like to hear from the applicant with anything you'd like to share with us, and then we'll have an opportunity to ask questions of you as well.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. Sandra, thank you. That was a really well-presented document. And the funny thing is that this does, the slideshow does shrink the horizontal a little bit. So everything looks a little bit taller than it is depicted in our drawings. I think you noticed that. As far as the picture of the palette goes, the picture, there are two pictures on that palette sheet. One of them is a vertical and one of them is horizontal. And we do want to keep it horizontal because of the horizontal siding on the main building. And the other picture is simply to show what some of the details might look like around the openings. Incidentally, on here we've also shown a weathered wood fence, so we're thinking that we might wash the fence with some kind of a semi-transparent stain that would be in keeping with the other colors on the property.
Any other questions of the applicant?
I guess I go back. My other question was going to be about landscaping too, or lack thereof on the plans. And the comment that no trees were going to be removed, but there are 3 or 4 more trees on the property than are shown on this drawing. So I didn't know if you're planning on leaving all the trees and they just weren't shown.
They were not shown so that you could see the building in the renderings, but we do plan on keeping them.
Okay.
Yeah. We're also, as Sandra noted, very interested in keeping a water-wise landscape, and so there will be some changes to the landscape that might include less lawn. The lawn has been significantly altered since the house went on the market. It hasn't been watered for various reasons, and so it's mostly dead right now anyway, and we need to do something about it.
Okay. Good.
What would your response be? Director Smith noted staff's primary objection to the project as presented is the front porch being in a side yard. So what's your response to that objection?
Well, Sandra and I had a discussion about this. We wanted to make the front lawn more of a dry scape with a pea gravel in the lawn. There's a house over on the corner of Starkey and Washington that we've been looking at and really like. I guess it's owned by a landscaper, and we really like the combination of pea gravel and I'm not going to get the plant name right, but I thought it was azalea, but I think I'm mistaken about that. But plants that are shaped into ball forms, there's a combination of those on that property, and we really like the way it looks. And then there's a vine that grows on the building too that's really lovely, but I don't think we have an opportunity to do that.
But that
And
didn't really address your question. Changing the
it did
entrance.
Oh, changing the entrance. Sorry. So, thank you. Because we wanted to do that kind of a landscape, it seemed kind of odd to have the concrete walkway coming in the center of that different type of landscape. Right now, it's between 2 lawns, and so We really haven't. I wasn't giving it much thought in terms of the landscape as it pertains to the building augmentation. I'm not totally opposed to bringing in the guideline of a center entrance. I just want to make sure that it works well with what we do with the landscape. And so far, we've really been more interested in expeditiously getting the permit for the building so that we could start using the house.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone from the public who'd like to speak about this application, please come up. Johnny's mother.
Yes, I am. Everyone knows my little Jack Russell Johnny. I'm Beth Weller, and I own the property on the north side of Scott and Stevens' new property. First of all, I'm thrilled to have the house be taken care of. That's awesome. Scott and Steven transferred a lawsuit when they bought the property pertaining to my recorded survey, which shows that my lot line goes right up to the north side of their house and actually cuts in a little bit of their corner of their house. I see in the staff report that it says, based on the recorded survey for the subject property, it would indicate that the house is set back 5 feet from the north side property line. So that would be interesting to see, since my survey is recorded and it says that theirs is recorded, to see the opposition of those two surveys. It doesn't really make sense to me. And I also noticed, when I just got these notes about an hour ago, that the second structure, the second residential unit, says that it is has a 5-foot setback from the side property line. When I look at that property line straight on where the existing fence is, it's not 5 feet. It looks like it's about 2.5 feet. So I guess my question would be, if the recorded survey, which would make sense if they had a recorded survey that moved the property line in contrast with what my recorded survey says, that it moves his Scott and Stevens property line over that other 5 feet on the other neighbor's property, which then that would make sense that they had, well, it would probably even be more than 5 feet. So I was really kind of curious about that. I don't know if you have your recorded survey that you could share or have a copy of, or.
So unfortunately, all your comments have to be addressed to us.
Oh, okay.
And then,
So I was curious if there, if anyone had a copy of the recorded survey, and Sandra did respond.
forgive the interruption, we will give the applicant an opportunity to answer your questions by giving us the answer.
All right, great.
So pray
Thank
continue,
you.
Beth.
I'm so used to Johnny, like, barking and. Again, I'm happy that the house is gonna have major improvements. I think that when you own your property, that to some degree, with compliance of what Old Town Yountville, I've been owned my house since '04, that it's nice to be able to make it a home and do what you want to do with it. So yeah, the recorded survey has me a little confused. If there is a 5-foot setback on the other second dwelling, then that would make sense that my recorded survey goes in tandem with their recorded survey, and that the whole lot line gets, pushed over. Can you think of anything else? So I think I'm done.
Thank you, Beth.
Okay, thank you.
Director Smith, I'd like to give you an opportunity to try to address
Okay.
the concerns raised.
We actually haven't seen the surveys on the property. We understand the opposing positions based on the applicant and the neighboring owners, positions based on the lawsuit. We know that existing conditions don't designate property lines on the property. It didn't on the north before the fence was moved, and it probably doesn't on the south. The fence is set back 2.5 feet from the south building elevation. The applicant represents that it's greater than that. It's less of a concern to staff since this isn't a development of raw land and we're talking about existing structures, although we have included a condition of approval that the applicant establish the property lines, that they show existing survey monuments, and that the licensed land surveyor provide that information to staff. And we feel like we can work through any of the issues that would relate to the redesign and the work that the applicants are doing through that measure.
What condition is that besides number 4?
Number 9 asks that the improvement plans clearly show all existing monuments, and existing condition 10 says the location of property lines shall be confirmed by a licensed land surveyor.
Thank you. Why did you single out the second dwelling unit for survey information in condition number 4?
I singled it out as to fire separation in the case that we don't have a 3 or 5 foot setback that would require it to be brought up to building code standards. Since I don't know, and they're showing openings on those locations, which
Okay.
could be modified upon a true survey.
I understand. We'd like to invite the applicant back to try to address or respond to the neighbors' concerns. Hello again.
Hi again. I think that because this is a case that's pending in the courts, that I'd rather leave it that way and not try to settle it here.
Okay.
Enough said.
With that said, I think we're going to close the public hearing. Everybody's had an opportunity to speak, and we're going to deliberate and see if a motion can be crafted. Who'd like to begin?
I would just say that I agree with staff's assessment that touring through the neighborhood and looking at all the houses around it, it is a very old town residential area. And to me, though I like the design of the building and I think it's really nice, it's missing the front door piece that makes it look residential. It doesn't have to match the neighborhood, it just has to follow that look. Right now, it is missing that, and so I support staff's proposal.
I'm not as concerned about the porch. I think in keeping with what you're trying to do, what they're trying to do, I guess what I'm more concerned about is what will become of the lawn, because I just know in the past we've taken a lot of time and effort to evaluate, and I feel like here we're just saying carte blanche, use your own discretion. So I had no problems with the front porch, and nor did I with the parking.
So from my perspective, parking, we have in the past, for similar small constrained lots, allowed tandem parking, particularly a small lot such as this. I do agree with staff that the front porch orientation is really fundamental to our ordinance. I was gratified the applicant said he was open to a pathway to it. I don't think it matters or should matter to us that it's a bedroom behind the front porch. What the orientation of the interior walls is not something we have much jurisdiction over, nor should we. But I do think that a sort of definable visual front porch element should be included. It could be, I think, as simple as a 3-foot meandering path through the landscaping and a simple break in the railings. I do think that's a fair recommendation. I would like to suggest when it comes to a motion that we add condition number 33, that all existing trees are to remain and to be protected during construction. We already heard that they're planning on doing that, so let's just memorialize it. Lastly, I'm somewhat conflicted about the property line dispute. I myself have been party to development in town where the town entitled improvements that I think was improper to do so. And there was, if you will, a bit of a hands-off approach while it's a civil dispute. So I find myself troubled by, even now, if we take a hands-off approach and say, well, it's up to them to sort out. With that said, we're not a court. We're not here to determine which survey is right, nor are we competent to. And so I guess with expressing that misgiving, I'm satisfied that Director Smith has crafted the report such that the burden is on the applicant to demonstrate the location of the property lines, and that the applicant understands that if they rely upon a survey, it's at their own peril. We're not approving the location of any improvements. So with that said, I think with the exception of the front porch, there's general agreement. With only 3 of us, we do need to come to a unanimous action. So would anyone care to craft a motion?
I would propose a motion that we accept all the conditions of approval as laid out by the staff, with the addition of number 33, that all trees will remain and be protected during construction. Does that suffice?
Is there a second? Strictly speaking, our rules of order do not require a second, so I would still call for a vote.
Okay.
But it's a nice courtesy. We like to get a second if we can,
I
but
second.
it's not required. So moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
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 You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Best wishes.
Okay.
We would now like to invite Mr. Durham back.
Still out there?
Sandra's, well, I looked at the 2 elevations and they're the same. There's 3 same fenestrations. So, welcome back, Chair Durham. We have
Thank you.
concluded 7.1, all yours.
When the audience stays for the rest of the agenda, that's great. Even when theirs is done, that's very nice. Oh, she has paperwork for you, so I get it. So we will move on to number 8, presentations and discussions, and there are no items. So, seeing that, we'll move to staff and board reports, Sandra.
Well, I wanted to share some of the construction activity in town. And as you know, the Vineyard Oaks project has pulled 5 of their permits, and they're proceeding with the development. They've indicated that they'll be pulling the permits as they complete items and work swiftly through that. Their goal is to complete construction and to put the units on the market. We also received 2 building permits this last week for the Allen residence that's at Jefferson and Starkey, and also for the Woodson residence at on Humboldt. And so we're in our first round of building permit reviews and comments on that, and we expect they'll break ground this spring as well. On Friday, we're meeting with the property owners of the RH parcel, the vacant parcel north of Maison Ream. So I anticipate that they'll be moving forward within the next few months, and I'll be able to bring a significant and large project before you. I know we haven't seen one in a while. I can tell Kimberly you're looking forward to that. Also, the wayfinding signs have been installed, and we're getting a lot of great and positive feedback on that. The business owners are really happy with it, and we've received input from 4 businesses that aren't participating that now want in on the program. So it's just as we suspected it would be. That really is it with regards to the projects I can think of. On April 7th, we'll have a new management analyst come on board, and they'll be replacing my old position and working half-time for this department, and they'll be serving as support to the ZDRB, so you'll meet him soon. His name is Nathan. Darn, I can't think of Nathan's last name, but you'll meet him soon enough. So that really concludes my reports, and if you have any questions, I will try to answer them.
Will you still be putting together the staff reports, or will he?
Yes, I will be.
Good.
Any other questions?
None.
Shall move to number 10, adjournment. And the next ZDRB meeting will be scheduled for April 8th, 2014. So the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, Sandra.
Good night.